بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. The Prophet ﷺ said, as part of a longer, authentically established hadith, he said, تحقرون صلاتكم مع صلاتهم وصيامكم مع صيامهم وعملكم مع عملهم. You will belittle or look down upon your prayer compared to their prayer, and your fasting compared to their fasting, and your deeds compared to their deeds. Again, the Prophet ﷺ is saying you will belittle. Look, your own deeds won't seem like much compared to their deeds. Now, if you didn't know the context of this hadith, again, this is part of a longer hadith. If you didn't know the context of this part of that hadith, you'd think that the Prophet ﷺ is talking about us and, about our own good deeds, our own voluntary actions and prayer and fasting and good deeds, compared to that of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Because of course, when we look and compare ourselves to them, they have a lot more good deeds than us. Most of them overall did a lot much better in terms of good than most of us. Now, the context though of this hadith is not talking about us or comparing to our deeds, belittling our deeds to the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ here is talking to the companions themselves, radiallahu anhum. So he's telling the companions themselves that they will belittle their own deeds compared to that other group of people, to their deeds. Comparing the salah of the companions, the siyam of the companions, the good deeds of the companions, to those people's good deeds, will make the companions view their own good deeds as if they're few. Now, who's the Prophet ﷺ talking about? The Prophet ﷺ, the context of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ is talking to the companions about if they compare their own deeds, their own good deeds, to the deeds of the Khawarij. He's talking about this deviant sect that came out, and despite that sect being seemingly righteous, and very practicing and righteous, yet they deviated from what the Prophet ﷺ was upon. They deviated from what the companions عنهم were upon. And the Khawarij declared takfir against the Muslims unjustly, and they rebelled against Ali, who was the Khalifa at the time, and they fought against him and the rest of the companions عنهم. Now, notice the Prophet ﷺ is telling the companions that when they compare their own good deeds to the good deeds of that group of people, that deviant sect of the Khawarij that he's talking about, that they will see their own good deeds to be few. Meaning that sect, they have a lot of good deeds. They do a lot of acts of worship, a lot of voluntary prayer and fasting, and a lot of extra good deeds. And when Ibn Abbas went to debate the Khawarij, there are 6,000 of them who separated from the Jama'ah of the Muslims and they rebelled against Ali. They separated themselves, and Ibn Abbas told Ali that he wanted to go and talk to them. So he went and debated them, and it's a very lengthy debate, but very interesting debate. If you're interested, definitely look it up. The debate of Ibn Abbas with the Khawarij, and you can read that story and the three arguments that they brought up and the three counter arguments that he brought up, and then some of them were convinced and went back to the truth and stopped from rebelling, and they went back to being loyal to Ali as the Khalifa, and the rest of them though continued in their deviance, and they fought against the companions and Ali and the companions fought and killed them. Now, when Abdullah ibn Abbas went to debate them, when he went in, he said, he made an observation, and it's a very lengthy story, but it's very interesting, a lot of points of benefit, but I want to focus on two things there. One thing is the observation he made. He said, I haven't seen any group of people that are as much as these Khawarij are in striving in worshiping Allah and doing good deeds. You know, so much so that their hands are like the knees of the camels. You know, it's very thick. It's callous. You know, the camel, when it sits on the ground, it sits on its knees, and so the skin of over its knees becomes very thick and callous and hardened. And so he's comparing their hands because of how much sujood they make, that it's callous because of how much voluntary prayers that they're praying. And even, you know, you can see, you know, on their foreheads because of the impact. You can see the effects of making a lot of sujood, a lot of voluntary extra prayers on their foreheads. And you see, you know, their faces. It looks like they're tired from staying up late at night and worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he made that observation about them. Again, emphasizing what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about them, that, you know, when you compare your good deeds, the companions compare their good deeds to the deeds of the Khawarij, all the voluntary extra prayers and fasting and good deeds that they're doing, it seems like they're few, because they're doing a lot more. The Khawarij are doing a lot more acts of worship, a lot more voluntary good deeds. Ibn Abbas is saying that he's never seen any people before striving in extra voluntary acts of worship as much as the Khawarij did when he entered upon them, when he saw the impact or you know, the extent of their worship. But the other thing I want to point out from what he said, and he said to them, I came to you from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the Muhajirin and the Ansar, and from the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, referring to Ali, and he was also married to his daughter, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, Fatima. And so he said, they are more knowledgeable about the interpretation of the Quran than you. They, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, are more knowledgeable of the interpretation of the Quran than you, than the Khawarij. And there's none of them amongst you. There's none of the companions amongst you, amongst the Khawarij. None of the companions joined the Khawarij, which shows you how deviant, you know, they were, that their interpretation was clearly wrong of the Quran. And you know, he's telling the Khawarij that, again, the Quran was sent down upon the Prophet ﷺ, and he taught it to the companions anhum. So they were with the Prophet ﷺ and learned it directly from him. And so they know better the proper understanding and interpretation and implementation of the Quran and the meanings of the Quran than this deviant sect, the Khawarij, those people who came after the Prophet ﷺ. None of them were from the companions and have misinterpreted some parts of the Quran, and because of that, that led them to declare takfir against other Muslims unjustly, and to go out against Ali and rebel against him and fight against Ali and the companions who were with him ajma'in. And again, he's emphasizing that none of the companions are amongst you, amongst the Khawarij, and that they learned directly from the Prophet ﷺ. When the Quran was being revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, they were there, and they know better, the companions know better the proper understanding of the Quran than the Khawarij. You know, the 2 points that I want to emphasize, so, you know, there's, again, a lot of benefits. I definitely encourage you to go back and read that story. But 2 things is, one is emphasizing the importance of following the understanding of the Prophet ﷺ and of his companions, following their understanding of the teachings of Islam, the teachings of the deen. We understand, we believe, we practice, we implement the Quran and the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ the way, how the Prophet ﷺ himself and the companions understood and practiced the Quran and the Sunnah. So we follow their understanding and their practice and their implementation of the Quran and Sunnah. We follow their path, which is the straight path that leads to Jannah. The second point I want to emphasize is, don't be deceived by some deviant people. If they sound eloquent or sound like they're righteous and seem like they're very knowledgeable and practicing and doing a lot of good deeds, they might seem very practicing and adhering to to the practices of Islam in terms of doing good deeds and extra prayers and fasting, and things like that. Don't be deceived by that if they're not following the teachings of Islam the way the Prophet ﷺ and the companions anhum ajma'een understood and practiced the teachings of Islam. If someone is practicing their own deviant understanding or misinterpreting the teachings of Islam and following their own wrong interpretation of it, as the Khawarij had done in the past, and many other deviant sects throughout the history of Islam. And if you're interested, there's another episode that I've already posted before about the 73 sects. So just look it up on my channel, inshallah. The 73 sects, that hadith that talks about that, and so we discussed that there. But don't be deceived by that and think, well, look, they seem very righteous, they're doing a lot of good deeds, they're very practicing, they do a lot of prayer and fasting. Don't be deceived by what might be seemingly righteous, but in reality they've deviated from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by not sticking and adhering to the Prophet ﷺ and his companions' understanding and practice of the teachings of Islam. We practice Islam, we practice the Quran and the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ the way that he understood and practiced it, the way that the companions understood and practiced the teachings of Islam. Barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khaira, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.